Hey folks, what's going on this morning? Well, it looks like you guys are going to be going back to work, and I am so happy. I am so happy that they're going to open up the economy again and let you grouchy people go back to work. So we can cut out most of the conspiracy theory, the 5G, the fake numbers, they're padding the numbers or they're hiding the numbers or whatever that they're doing. It's not a serious virus. They're overcounting this, that, or the other. They're trying to make us afraid, take our freedoms, initiate martial law, all this hoo-ha that's been going on over the last 2-3 months. At this point, I'm sick of it. So even though, you got to keep up with it and stuff like that because it's going down. But, most states will be back to work May 1st. You're going to have places like Texas and Tennessee, I think it is, and Georgia, and I do believe Michigan, that's going to open back up by the 24th, I think it is. And then by the 1st, I think everybody will be not quite in full swing, but I think they're going to loosen up the restrictions. All you got to do is have a mask and some gloves, and you can go out and do whatever you want. So you can go out and socialize through your mask. You can go out and get some clean air. You can come out of your house. I don't know how they're going to handle the club scene. I'm sure there's going to be underground clubs because most of the legal clubs probably going to be remained shut down. But since it's probably going to be spring and summer, you might have some of those backyard boogies, maybe house parties and stuff like that. Maybe people will get back and socialize and do house parties since the club scene is going to be down. I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe it's a good thing. People are so tired of being alone, they will actually learn how to socialize without getting on each other's nerves. Maybe they'll put their phones down and stop texting and all that other stuff that they do when they're in person. Maybe they'll learn to appreciate each other when they're in each other's presence because they haven't had it for 4 weeks. Jesus Christ, I can't believe America lost its mind in 4 weeks because they couldn't go out and do what they wanted to do. So we are a nation of pussies, a nation of children that can't go without their candy for a few days. But anyway, we'll be able to put all these theories to an acid test, even though people will be going out with masks. The black pill in me would love to see what happened as people went out without masks and all that other kind of stuff and just went back to completely to normal, what the results would be, just out of curiosity. Because I'm tired of people making stuff up. People saying that they're padding the numbers with other kind of stuff, with deaths and heart attacks and all that kind of stuff. And they're going by hearsay. They're going by people that read statistics and hear it from third and fourth and fifth source and then can't document it. And everybody that I talk to that's actually either work in the hospitals, because I know 3 nurses, that are subs of mine that we have had on cam, that we have had in the chat, not in the chat, but I say on panels, even before the lockdown. And they've been completely honest about what's going on in their hospitals. And one of my subs, Rodney, who's a nurse, he actually cammed up and he was fully, CDC suited up, man, with all his gear, all his protective gear. And he was telling me, it wasn't no joke, he was telling me the same thing that Super Triz had told me like a month earlier, because Super Triz is in Seattle. And Super Triz was telling me he had to do the exact same thing that Rodney was doing. And previous to the outbreak, I had asked the same 3 people, what were they seeing? And they were telling me honestly, they don't see anything. They didn't see anything the previous, like in January when I first asked. They said that they hadn't seen anything. There was nothing coming through. That the doctors weren't talking about it. Nobody heard anything. And they were completely honest. 2 months later, they're telling me the exact opposite because they're seeing it. And they're seeing how serious it is. And they're seeing how many people die on this kind of stuff. And this is from a hospital in Alabama. And I had heard from BMT, even before the outbreak really started, that they, in his area in South Carolina, they had lost 132 old people that had not been reported. So I know that they're undercounting the dead just by the people that are in the field telling me that they're undercounting the dead, but they can't come out publicly and say it. And I know that makes sense that they're undercounting the dead because they want your black ass to go back to work. If they know that people are dropping dead from going back to work, you're less likely to do it, no matter what you say. So the people that are subs, that are online, that actually do this stuff, you believe them about everything else they say in their life. But when it comes down to the stuff they actually see in person, in their workplace, all of a sudden they're lying. They're part of the conspiracy, which is why I'm actually glad that they're going to send you guys back to work. And I hope they turn up the 5G, turn it all the way up to 10 and see what happens. So all those theories can get worked out. And we're going to have plenty of data. Because once they send you back, China's already getting a second wave. Japan's already getting a second wave. Korea's already getting a second wave. Singapore's getting a second wave. And what they're finding out, the second wave is worse than the first, which is something that was to be expected. But now we get to see in real time, which is the black pill in me wants to see it in real time, exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to get my popcorn. And when you Negroes go back to work, go back to partying, go back to the gathering, I wish they would just open it all back up. I really do. The bars, the clubs, the concerts, everything go back to normal. You know, even with you wearing a mask, I would love to just see it and see what happens. And then if nothing happens and it's just like the regular flu, which I looked up, a bad flu season, which is something we had in 2018, in 8 months, it killed 80,000 people, which is about 10,000 people a month. And they did not test for everybody. In fact, I went back and looked at it. The people that died from so-called influenza, only about 20% of them were actually tested, which is typical. But because you don't want to believe it, you want everybody tested, which they don't even have enough kits to test it, which is something that, shout out to Nicole Ali, she said that there was not enough kits. The kits are actually very expensive. There's not enough of them. And since they're very new, they're not very reliable, which is everything that she said. She said this months ago. John Calypso said this months ago. In fact, Anwar, which is another one of my subs, who's an epidemic, I think he's a toxicologist. He said the exact same thing 2 months ago. He said the kits that they were using initially were not good. They're not accurate. They're actually giving too many false negatives. In fact, I just saw a article, I think it's the New York Times, it was the New York Times, the New York Post, said the exact same thing. It said there was 3 people that came up with a false negative, I think it was false negative, that they sent home, they sent to a hotel to actually quarantine themselves. Those people died. And it's not the first time I've heard this. And from what the literature is saying, now I don't know how true that is because, like you said, you can't test everybody. But even at the maximum, if you could test everybody, what they're saying, and their maximum projection is only about 1% of the United States has been effective. Only 1% of the United States shows antibodies where they've actually come across this flu. So that's they say about 3 or 4 million people, which is about a little over 1%. 1%. You have 1% of the people that, by their estimations, that have this or came in contact with this. And let's just take their numbers. If that is the case, within a month, you've had 40,000 people die of this within a month, with just 1% of the population being infected. Multiply that by 100 times, you got 4 million. And this is just a month. If this stuff expands and it goes to a normal cycle of 8 months, which is a normal flu season, which we haven't had a normal flu season because normally flu season goes from September to April. So you have 1 month of one late month of a flu season, and you have 40,000 people that have succumbed to this COVID. Multiply 4 times 8. 4 times 8 is 320,000 people in the year in a regular flu season. 320,000 people. They thought that 80,000 in a year was abnormally high. So you would have 4 times as many. And that's with extraordinary measures by social distancing and putting everybody on basically quarantine. But we're going to see. And initially when I talked to Val, this is like 2 months ago, that I thought it was bad, but I hoped that it wouldn't be that bad. I had hoped that it would be rather benign or mild, where very few people died and very few people got really sick. Now, after all this whining and conspiracy theory stuff, and I don't believe fat meat is greasy, and I don't believe this stuff is real. I think this is a plot to get people brainwashed and all this particular crap. You know what? I withdraw. I think we should let the chips fall where they may. What happens, happens. If it's very few people die and it's very mild, fine. If a whole bunch of people get sick and die, fine. Let the chips fall where they may, because basically this is what the people want. And people will say, damn the torpedoes, and we're willing to sacrifice 3 or 4, maybe even 500,000 people for our pleasure and get the economy back rolling. That's, if you guys are good with that, I'm good with it. Tired of people emailing me about this theory, that theory, this is fake, that's fake. Hey, you ain't got to email me this stuff. You ain't got to go back and forth with me because I put this stuff out. If you got a counter narrative, put your stuff out. Have people come to your channel so you guys can all go over there, commiserate, and you guys can go through all the weird conspiracy theories. You guys can all sit down, sit together, and fold tinfoil hats. And I love a good conspiracy theory. I love a good conspiracy. You know, it's like eating the best steak in the world. A good conspiracy theory. The only problem is that I haven't seen any good conspiracy theories. And the ones that I have seen, the good ones, it's the ones you guys don't like because you don't think this virus is real. Even though they can make these things up like 90 going north, because the CRISPR is probably the most dangerous biological device that's ever been invented, because it's a smartphone for biologists. For people that shouldn't be able to do this kind of stuff can. And it's getting to the point where you type in a few keys, if you halfway know what you're doing, you can make something that can kill half the planet, which is something that I worry about, which is something that probably just happened. But it's 5G, man. It's a fucking Bill Gates conspiracy, man. This is about vaccinations, man. This is about putting a chip into everybody, man. The Chinese, who have a lockdown society, can do anything they want, don't even chip their people. And they can. Why would the United States even try it? But I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole, man. And now we'll get to see exactly what's going to happen. Now, you conspiracy theorists can actually see in real time whether your ideas are going to play out, and actually examine all your theories in real time and see what's going on and see what's up. Anyway, that's all I got for this morning talk. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next.